If I trigger it, the glass will shatter.
In his garage, Charlie is busy repairing the plane his wife Sarah gave him for his birthday. A project close to his heart. She interrupts to remind him she's leaving soon for a business trip to London and invites him to come along once again. Charlie declines, citing work. Later, he arrives at CIA headquarters and heads toward the decryption and analysis department, passing through layers of security scanners, all of which he personally designed. Once at his desk, he receives a message from Inquiline, the mysterious source he's secretly worked with for years. As always, they offer classified intel, but this time they issue a warning. These documents could endanger the CIA. Charlie guesses Istanbul, but Inquiline gives nothing away. He dives into decoding the data, but even his expertise can't crack it. After a brief lunch break, Sarah calls from London to say she's arrived safely, though Charlie already knows, having tracked her. The call is short, he's still fixated on the files. Frustrated, Charlie takes his laptop to the restricted area, where stronger systems give him an edge. Finally, he breaks the encryption, and the contents leave him stunned. The documents expose a drone strike that was disguised as a suicide bombing and later covered up. News clips report 150 dead, including French Special Forces and Danish Marines. The entire operation was orchestrated by Chief Moore, Charlie's own boss. That night, Charlie tries calling Sarah, but she doesn't answer. He leaves her a voicemail, unaware of the storm that's about to hit. The next morning, he walks into the office and is surprised to see Chief Moore waiting. Without explanation, Moore escorts him to the office of O'Brien, the newly appointed CIA director. Calmly but gravely, she informs Charlie of a terrorist attack at a London hotel, and that Sarah was among the victims. Charlie refuses to believe it, desperate to call her. But Moore turns on the news, and the horror plays out on screen. 4 terrorists stormed the hotel, took hostages, and killed 2, including Sarah. The security footage confirms it. When Charlie returns home, the street is packed with reporters shouting questions, while police hold them back. A friend helps Charlie slip inside unnoticed. The next day, Charlie confronts Moore and Supervisor Caleb, raising questions they don't want to answer. How did the attackers get past London's massive surveillance network? How did they vanish into traffic? Moore insists the investigation is ongoing, but Caleb coldly sends Charlie home. Later, Charlie collects Sarah's body and belongings. At home, he finds a gift that she had bought for him and breaks down. Restless and unwilling to sit in grief, Charlie returns to the office and heads straight for the restricted computer system. He begins hacking into the hotel's surveillance network along with nearby street cams, determined to piece together what truly happened. After combing through footage, he compiles a detailed timeline of the attack and presents it to his superiors. According to the footage, the 4 terrorists first stole a car in the East End, then entered the hotel through a service entrance, carefully wiping away any fingerprints or DNA. They'd come to meet with representatives from Impact Investments, a firm based in Indonesia. But something went wrong. An argument broke out in a corridor. When one of the firm's security guards lost his temper, one of the terrorists opened fire, killing him instantly and leaving another in critical condition. Hotel security was alerted, and the police were called. The terrorists burst into a conference room and took hostages. Sarah was captured while trying to help others escape. Charlie uses voice and facial recognition to identify the attackers. Mishka from Moscow, Laurence, a former South African Special Forces operative, Horst, a hardened mercenary, and Gretchen, once an intelligence officer. But when he shares the intel, Moore and Caleb show no surprise. It's clear they already knew. They brush him off and send him to a therapist. The next day, Charlie smuggles a chip in his ID badge past security, prints out classified files in his office, and uses a skimmer to digitally copy them. That night, he sits at a bar, staring blankly at a jukebox. The following morning, he confronts Moore and Caleb again. This time, he brings proof. Missions that Moore authorized, including bombings in Syria and Yemen that left thousands dead. He demands full CIA training, fake passports, weapons, and information on Sarah's killers. If not, he warns, his dead man switch will release everything to the press. After the tense meeting, Charlie stumbles back to his car and throws up from the sheer weight of stress. At headquarters, Moore tells Caleb she's convinced the dead man's switch is a bluff, but Caleb warns they can't afford to take that risk. If it is fake, they'll find the trigger and eliminate Charlie during his training. Soon, Caleb's team begins analyzing how Charlie could have copied the files. They suspect he used a skimmer, not on the secure computers, but through the printer. By sending the documents to print and swiping a magnetic strip, he could have extracted the data. Security footage confirms he purchased such a strip, but they still can't figure out how he managed to sneak it in and out undetected. The investigation leads them to Charlie's home and then to a bar he visited twice. While searching the bar, they find an ABBA CD under the jukebox. Caleb selects that track from the jukebox, but only static plays. They remove the planted CD, suspecting Charlie hid something inside. Meanwhile, Charlie arrives at a CIA training facility, greeted by Colonel Henderson. He struggles with shooting, needing to get dangerously close to land a shot. But when it comes to building bombs, Charlie's speed and precision impress everyone. Henderson then drills him on memorizing his new identity: rough, physical, and relentless. Finally, his fake passports are prepared. That night, Henderson visits Charlie's room and tells him he's not a killer. But Charlie, filled with grief and resolve, insists he's after justice. Henderson pulls out a gun and hands it to him, telling him to aim. Charlie's hands tremble uncontrollably, and in the end, he lowers the weapon. Meanwhile, back at the office, agents spend hours decrypting the CD Charlie left behind, only to realize the dead man's switch was a bluff. They alert their superiors, unaware that Charlie is listening in. The chip he hid in his badge wasn't a switch, but a bug, one he secretly planted on the documents handed to Moore and Caleb. Moore quickly calls Henderson to arrest Charlie, but he's already gone. After the call, Moore finally spots the bug and speaks into it, calling Charlie's actions treason. Charlie removes his earpiece and boards a plane. Upon landing in London, he clears customs and heads for Paris. But the CIA system flags his fake passport, prompting Moore to dispatch Henderson once again. In Paris, Charlie checks into a hotel near a restaurant where Gretchen is known to frequent. When she appears, he begins tracking her phone and later sneaks into her building by tailing a tenant. He uses an online guide to pick the lock to her apartment. Inside Gretchen's apartment, Charlie quickly begins snapping photos of her schedule and any documents he can find. In a drawer, he spots a gun and instinctively pockets it. Suddenly, his tracker buzzes. Gretchen is on her way back. He dashes to the stairwell to lie in wait. But when she walks through the door, he freezes. His hands won't move. Disappointed in himself, he hurries back to the hotel, imagining Sarah waiting for him as if nothing had changed. Later, as he reviews the photos, Charlie notices a pattern. Gretchen has been frequenting a hospital. Hacking into her medical records, he discovers she suffers from severe allergies. The next morning, he buys an overwhelming amount of flowers and positions himself at a cafe until she appears. He tails her to the hospital. During her tests, the attending doctor leaves due to a computer glitch. Seizing the moment, Charlie enters in disguise, locks Gretchen inside a medical chamber and begins filling it with pollen. She panics. He demands Horst's location, the man who killed Sarah, but her reaction is too severe to speak. Charlie opens the chamber, only for Gretchen to lunge at him. A brutal fight erupts, both smashing into every surface. Charlie draws his gun, but Gretchen knocks him down and bolts. He chases her into the street, but before he can act, she's hit by a car. Horrified, he hesitates, then forces himself to retrieve her phone from her body. He flees, ditching the blood-stained lab coat in a trash can. Back at the hotel, he washes up, packs quickly, and by nightfall, boards a bus to Marseille. News of Gretchen's death quickly reaches the CIA. O'Brien questions Moore, who coldly replies that it looks like one of their own took her out. That night, Charlie drinks heavily at a bar, guilt gnawing at him. He briefly thinks he sees Sarah dancing, but it's just a stranger who looks like her. Suddenly, he spots Henderson entering the bar and panics. Pushing through the crowd, he bolts out into the street and ducks into another nearby bar. Henderson follows. Charlie races to the bathroom and locks the door. No windows, no way out. Forced to face him, Charlie returns to the bar. Henderson reveals he tracked him using Gretchen's phone. Calmly, Charlie shows him a timer on his phone and bolts. Moments later, an explosion rips through the bathroom. Amid the chaos, Henderson loses him. The tracker's dead. By morning, Charlie contacts Inquiline for help and boards a cargo plane to Turkey. In Istanbul, Charlie heads to a quiet restaurant and texts Inquiline. When a nearby man's phone rings, Charlie approaches, only to be intercepted by a woman who calmly tells him to check his own phone. Outside, the woman catches up and reveals she's Inquiline. She already knows about Sarah. With calm urgency, she has Charlie stash his hat and backpack into a shopping bag and tells him to blend in as a tourist, then meet her later at a garage. Soon after, Charlie reunites with her and she drives him to her home. Along the way, she opens up. She became a hacker 6 years ago after her husband, a CIA asset embedded with Russian intelligence, died under suspicious circumstances. He was the original Inquiline and taught her everything. The official story? He fell out of a window. At her home, Inquiline admits it's the longest she's stayed in one place and she's tired of running. If the Russians come, she's prepared to end things on her terms. They shift focus to the mission. Horst is Moore's point man for hiring mercenaries, and Laurence is the arms dealer. She offers to pose as one herself to get close to him. Then there's Mishka, who constantly posts photos online. In one image, they spot a woman. Facial recognition leads them to her Instagram, placing them in Spain. Meanwhile, Caleb orders his team to monitor the terrorists for any sign of Charlie. O'Brien confronts Moore about running Black Ops without clearance. He shrugs it off, claiming full support, just like he told her predecessor. Later, her assistant shows her a photo of Henderson in Spain. She knows Moore sent him, so she dispatches an agent of her own to follow. Charlie and Inquiline trace Mishka by tapping into a hotel's surveillance system. Charlie heads to Madrid, checks into the same hotel, and quickly learns that Mishka has a habit: swimming in a rooftop pool that links 2 towers. Unbeknownst to him, Henderson is already closing in. The next day, Charlie assembles a device and hides it discreetly inside the hotel. That evening, he tails Mishka to the bar, unaware Henderson is just steps away in the lobby. Spotting a familiar face at the bar, Charlie realizes he's being tailed. He alerts Inquiline through his earpiece. She scans the man and confirms he's CIA. She warns him to pull out, but Charlie insists on moving forward. When Mishka enters the pool, Charlie corners him and demands Horst's location. Mishka scoffs, swims away, until Charlie triggers the device. The glass begins to crack. Mishka panics, but the pool bursts, drowning him in the street below. Inquiline urgently alerts Charlie that Henderson and another agent are closing in, guiding him through an escape route. A high-stakes chase breaks out. Henderson nearly grabs him, but before he can, the second agent launches an ambush. The 2 men crash into a nearby laundry room, throwing brutal punches and slamming each other into machines. Henderson grabs the upper hand, forcing the agent's head into a washing machine. The agent fires a shot, hitting Henderson, but Henderson retaliates, grabbing the weapon and shooting him dead. Charlie hesitates at the doorway, unsure if he should step in, but Inquiline's voice in his ear reminds him to keep running. The following day, O'Brien calls Moore into her office to ask about Charlie's whereabouts. Moore says he's on bereavement leave, and O'Brien lets him go, only to later reveal she's secured surveillance footage from the hotel. Meanwhile, Caleb and his team uncover the same footage and realize Charlie had help. Digging into his encrypted messages, they finally locate communication with the original Inquiline, then connect the dots that his widow must have taken over his identity. That night, Charlie and Inquiline, exhausted and on edge, agree to sleep beside each other just for comfort. But their rest is short-lived. The birds screech. Surveillance monitors light up. Agents are closing in. The 2 escape through a hidden tunnel, slipping into an adjacent building as a drone circles overhead. Moments later, agents swarm the now empty house. Files on the computer begin deleting themselves. The agents soon catch up and open fire, chasing them relentlessly, even across the water by boat. After a prolonged pursuit, they manage to shoot the car enough to force it to a halt, leaving Inquiline gravely wounded. With no time to spare, Charlie shifts her lifeless body to the passenger seat and takes the wheel himself, continuing the escape until he finally shakes off their tail. Later, he quietly parks the car in a garage and leans in to give Inquiline a final, sorrowful kiss goodbye. The following day, Charlie reaches out to Laurence, posing as an arms dealer, to arrange a meeting. After purchasing new electronics, he travels to Romania and, inside an abandoned building, records a video of himself and hacks a security feed in Berlin, diverting the CIA's attention there. When Laurence arrives, he finds a ringing phone resting on a chair. Charlie's voice instructs him to open a nearby box. Inside, a cluster of bombs and a photo of Sarah. Any movement means detonation. As Laurence panics, Charlie steps from the shadows, demanding Horst's location and promising to disarm the explosives if he cooperates. Laurence reveals that Horst operates in Russian waters, receiving shipments at a Baltic port, and only communicates through coded messages via trusted men. He tosses Charlie his phone, containing all the names and numbers. Charlie walks out. Behind him, a deafening blast. Laurence is gone. The CIA soon realizes the Berlin footage was fake. At a quiet Russian hotel, Charlie imagines Sarah sitting beside him as he opens the last gift she gave him. Inside is a puzzle, which he solves effortlessly, only to find a heartfelt message from her tucked within. The next morning, he heads to the port and spots a suspicious vehicle. Sending a coded message to Horst's network, he watches as a man by the car checks his phone, confirming the connection. Charlie trails him discreetly, snapping photos of the boat before disappearing. Back at the hotel, Charlie uses the registration number to trace the yacht the boat belongs to, then maps out potential sea routes Horst might take. At dawn, he makes his move toward the vessel, only to be ambushed from behind. As he's knocked unconscious, Sarah's puzzle falls from his hand. Charlie awakens aboard the yacht, face to face with Horst. The mercenary reveals he found the earlier bomb Charlie had planted and mocks him for not being a real killer. He tosses Charlie a gun and dares him to prove otherwise. But Charlie lowers the weapon. Suddenly, alarms blare. The yacht has changed course. Charlie grins, revealing he's hacked into the vessel's systems, thanks to insider knowledge from when he developed its protocols. The yacht, now in Finnish waters, is intercepted by the Finnish Navy and Interpol, who swiftly arrest Horst and his crew. Later, O'Brien holds a press briefing announcing the capture of rogue agents exploiting CIA resources. Henderson finds Charlie and tells him he's proud. After visiting Sarah's grave, Charlie finally takes his plane out for a ride, free at last. This is the end of the movie.